Hey everyone, welcome back to my next how-to tutorial, and for this episode I am going to show you how to spiral bind a book. Now this is the planner that I made in my last video, and because the binding was a whole episode in itself, I've made it into a separate video, so this is how you do it. Okay, this is the mechanism that I'm going to use to bind my planner with, and it is the Cinch, and it is a spiral binding machine for craft workers. I got it off of a for sale site round the area that I live, and it was a bargain at the time and I couldn't resist. I've got my sister's wedding coming up, so I have a feeling I'll be doing bits and pieces with this for that, so it was just worth the investment. I've not used this before, so it's going to be interesting for me to use as well, so I'm going to read the instruction manual and I will come back to you with how we're going to do the book. This is the machine itself. As you can see, it's quite a hefty bit of equipment, and the individual parts work like this. This little clip just holds the handle down. This is the handle that does the hole punching and the cinching of the binding. This is the gauge that you can line your paper up with, and the stopper at the end. These pins are where the punches lie, and you pull them out depending on where you want the holes, and I'll show you how that actually works in a minute. These little lips or hooks or things here are used to hook your binder over, and then you can take your paper and as you punch it, put it straight onto the binder to keep it neat and tidy. On this side you've got a little stopper, so as you pull the paper out from the binders, when you get to the second to last hole you can put that into it and it lines the rest of the holes up perfectly. At the back you have a drawer that holds all your punches. Also at the back you have the actual cinch bit which clamps down on the wire, and you press down and twist to the wire size that you've got. And in the same way that the handle punches, it also cinches at the back. Now, as you can see, I've had a little bit of a play trying to work out where I want the holes in the cover, and it is absolutely the right thing to do is to use some scrap paper before you use your project. I have done this half a dozen times just to make sure that my holes are going to line up with my book cover, because I don't want it to go wrong, because this took me a little bit of time to do. As much as the Cinch has an inch guide and a centimetre guide, it seems that the pegs are pulled out regarding to how many inches long your paper is. So because of that, having had a bit of a play, I've worked out that I'm going to need a little bit of a buffer. It's only a bamboo skewer, but I'm going to need a buffer so that my holes line up where I want them to on my cover. So I'll show you it without the buffer to start with. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place the paper against the buffer into the machine as far back as it can go, and make sure that it's tight to this edge and this edge, and punch your holes. You then move this guide all the way out off of the punch, and you pull your paper all the way out as well. Now, so that you don't get any holes that are half on the paper and half off the paper, you pull out the peg that is just over the edge of the paper. So for this it's going to be 5. And then you're left with a line of holes. Now, because this is the same size as my cover, when I did it the first time I realised one end is got a thicker gap on it to the other. So that's why I'm going to use a buffer just to push all the holes up or down, whichever way you look at it, so that my cover sits right. Push the peg back in. This is going to be scary because this is the project now. So push it right back in to the back of the machine. So I'm placing my buffer just against the edge of the guide and then pushing the cover of my book into the machine right to the back. It's a little bit tight because of the thickness of the tape on the corners, but that is even all the way through. It's a little bit. There we go. And then we're going to punch the holes. So there's our first set of holes, and I'm now going to pull this all the way out, keeping the buffer on the end. So I'm going to push the book cover all the way to the back. And out to the guide. And I'm going to punch the next lot of holes. And there we have our first line of holes on the planner cover. I'm going to repeat that for the second side. So again, pushing the guide all the way in, putting my buffer in and placing the book cover right in to the back of the machine. And I'm going to punch the first lot of holes. I'm taking it slowly because this is very, very thick. I don't want to break the machine. It does say only to use up to 20 sheets of paper, and I think this is a little bit thicker than that because I'm having trouble putting it in, but that'll teach me for wanting such a sturdy planner. So we pull the guide all the way out, pull the cover to the end and push it in to the edge. I'm going to pull out plug number 6 and punch the next lot of holes. And there we have all the holes in the cover. Before I go any further with the hole punching, I just need to work out how long I need my wires to be. Because I've got such a lot of paper, I'm going to use the biggest wire that I could find, and that's 1 inch thick. And I need to count the holes that I've got so that I know where to cut the wire. 17 holes, so I need to count 17 loops on the back. And then I cut just after that one. And that then fits the planner. Bringing the cinch back in, you place your wire on the hooks on the side, and you can start adding each layer of your book. Make sure that I've got them all in the right place to start with, and then I can start building up the pages. Okay, so I have just had a bit of a play to work out where the holes need to be on the inside, and because I want it to go through every one of these, it's taken a little bit of working out to do. But instead of my wedge being up on the top, it just needs to be on its side, and that then gives me the correct distances for the holes to fit the cover. So let's go ahead and do that. Again, push it into the back, pull it down to the wedge, and punch the first holes. Then pull out the guide all the way, pull the paper down. What you can't see on this side here, there's a little pin that I'm going to push down into the second to last hole, and then that will line up the other holes that I need to do. Pull pin number 6 and punch. Release the peg. And there we have the first lot of holes for the planner, and I can just add them to the guide, and as you can see it fits just nicely within the cover. So I'm going to carry on and do all the rest of these, and I will come back to you once I'm done. Section with the hole punch, so I'm just going to put it all aside for the moment and organise which sheets I want to go where within the planner, and then we can come back and do what the machine says and cinch it all together. That I want it, I'm going to bring the cinch machine back, turn it around. On the back of the machine you've got the clamp, I think you can see there, that you put the wire into, and then by using the same lever you used before, it crushes the wires together, creating the bind. On the top, you need to move the dial to the marking of whichever size wire you've got. Now this is a 1-inch wire, so I'm going to just push down on the dial and move it to the 1-inch mark, and that stops it from over tightening when you press down. So you put your book into the clamp. I'm going to start at one end and make sure that it's right to the back and press down. So that is my book all completed, all nicely bound. There's a few finishing touches I have to do to the book to get it the way I want, and with hindsight I probably should have got the 1.5 or 1.25 spiral, so I may end up swapping that out at some point just because it's a little bit tight to close and I want a little bit of working room, and by the time I've added some receipts and other bits and pieces it looks like it might even get a bit thicker than it is now. As you can see, it didn't quite go to plan because I had more pages than I could manage to get onto the spiral binds. I'm going to research and see if I can find a wider spiral so that I can redo it and add the pages that I want, just so that I've got all of my stuff in the one book. But as you can see, it makes for a really neat, tidy planner. I hope you found the video interesting and helpful, and thank you for staying to the end, and I will see you again in my next video.